this crummy situation, let's make content out of it.
The Matt Schneidman Show is presented by Potawatomi Sportsbook, a new era in sports betting.
Never go corporate, always go local.
Now with Doug Russell.
Doug, that's why you need to focus and you do everything that we say.
Here's Matt Schneidman on the game.
I think me and Matt have a much better feel for each other.
Matt Schneidman Show, Tuesday, September 17th. And that voice you just heard, the quarterback Jordan Loves, is he going to practice tomorrow? Is he going to practice at all this week? I think the big story this week is obviously Malik Willis's potential revenge game. And I say potential because if Matt LaFleur described Jordan Love as day-to-day to Larry McCarron last week, and he didn't play after being listed as questionable and then doubtful, you'd have to think this week's in play. Now, Diana Rossini reported for us at The Athletic that week 4 is more likely against the Vikings, not the home opener, the second home game for the Packers. But I don't think you can rule out week 3. Matt LaFleur said yesterday that ideally Jordan Love would practice before playing just because of how much time he's now missed. But it's not a necessity. It's not a prerequisite. So it's a potential Malik Willis revenge game. And we talked a little bit about that yesterday. And I want to give a shout out again to Potawatomi Sportsbook, Hotel, and Casino, all 3 branches of Potawatomi, because we had a great show there yesterday with Dorsey Levens. The hospitality from Luis and everybody there. Brandon, I believe, was the name of the GM of the sportsbook.
Yep.
I stayed over. They got me a nice room. The hospitality, fantastic. The dinner, fantastic. The setup at the sportsbook, fantastic. So if you are in the area, you got to go check out Potawatomi. I will be back down there next month for another show, guest TBD for this Green and Gold Legend series that we're doing once a month. Dorsey Levens, fantastic first guest. I had dinner with him afterward. Good conversation. Doug, you were obviously a fantastic addition to the show with your historical perspective, but I just appreciate Pato for having us down last night. Look forward to getting back.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed doing my pregame show down there, Packers game day, and they have breakfast down there for me for we'll have a noon kickoff on Sunday, so I'll have the pancakes again, and just everything is perfect down there. It's the best place to gather with your people and watch a game. If you want to get fantastic food, the best experience with all the big TVs there. Oh. If you want a fully immersive experience with sports, Potawatomi Sportsbook it's the best place, certainly in the Milwaukee area. And I haven't been to all of the casinos in Wisconsin, but I would imagine that it's got to be
the best.
It has to be the best.
It's like a Vegas casino.
It really is. And when I tell people that, I mean, I've spent a lot of time at, for example, the Mandalay Bay Casino and Sportsbook. That was my first immersive experience in what a sportsbook in Las Vegas was. And for Potawatomi to kind of not replicate what they did at Mandalay Bay, but just do something that was along those same lines and just as good, that's unbelievable to me and to our community. And it's just such a fun place to go and such a great place to watch sports.
The studio is fantastic.
Yeah, the studio is great.
With the TVs in front of us, overlooking the sports book, great chairs, great equipment. I did leave my valet parking slip in there and couldn't get back in this morning. I didn't even try. So I had to fill out a form to get my car back from valet this morning before I drove back to Green Bay.
These things happen.
But other than that, a seamless trip. The blackjack table could have been nicer to me last night. I will say that.
All right.
But that's okay. We're here. We're good.
And a perfect day for you because on Tuesday, there's no Packers. Most weeks, there's no Packers media availability with the game on Sunday. So it's not like you had to rush back or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So great experience if you are down in the Milwaukee area or even in Chicago, Madison. You got to get over to Potawatomi. Check that out. And the Potawatomi Sportsbook, a proud sponsor. I don't know if they're proud. I would hope so. Of the Matt Schneidman Show, a new era in sports betting.
They seem to like you a lot. I mean, I had the conversation with Luis before the show, and I'm like, you know what Matt looks like? Oh yeah, no, I'm a big fan.
Well, I met him at the Yankees Brewers game when we were in the suite.
Oh, okay.
So I've met him before.
Okay, he does listen. So shout out Luis
and
Brandon.
The great little spread we had for the show, some charcuterie, if you will. The sausages, maybe it was.
I social media'd that one out, tweeted it out.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So really appreciative of that. The news today for the Packers, and we'll get to Jordan Love and Malik Willis later. Marshawn Lloyd to IR. Your guy, Marshawn Lloyd from USC. We talked to Marshawn Lloyd in locker room yesterday, Victory Monday open locker room, and he said he had sprained his ankle in Sunday's game against the Colts, which is why he left and didn't return. He said he was walking fine, though. He said everything was pretty fine, but he called himself day-to-day. Well, now he's out for at least 4 games because my guess, if it's an ankle sprain and you're out at least 4 games, it's probably a high ankle sprain. The Packers already lost A.J. Dillon in their backfield. Now they lose Marshawn Lloyd for a month. Emmanuel Wilson's going to be the number 2. They call up Chris Brooks from the practice squad. Josh Jacobs has to be that meme of SpongeBob just huffing and puffing when he's naked, just out of breath. Josh Jacobs is going to earn that $12.8 million, whatever the heck he's making. I think it's $12 million per year, $12 million. Yeah, because it's 48 over 4, I believe. He's going to earn his money. I'm not saying you're going to see 32 carries again. I think you'll see a healthy dose of, if Malik Willis plays, Malik Willis scrambles. I doubt they're going to make Jordan Love run much if he plays on that knee the first game back. But Emmanuel Wilson, they're going to be using Jaden Reed and Bo Melton on kind of that end-around action. But the running back room, I've seen deeper running back rooms than the one the Packers have now, Doug.
Well, yeah, everybody's hurt. And with Marshawn Lloyd, I mean, I think with the nagging injuries that he's had, he had the hamstring injury, obviously, in training camp. Now probably a high ankle sprain. It's, like you said, we've been told that it's an ankle sprain. He said that in the locker room last Sunday. Maybe you just shut him down for a few weeks and let him get right. And just everything needs to rest and reset. He's got the 4 games now. He can come back in a month or so roughly and hopefully be able to stay healthy the rest of the season. They're going to need him the rest of the way. And I would have said the same thing about A.J. Dillon. Obviously, that's not going to happen with him on season-ending IR. Injuries happen in football, as we all know, but that also means that Josh Jacobs, the more he gets the rock, if he gets it another 32 times against the Titans, the more he gets the rock, the more susceptible he's going to be to getting an injury as well. So it's a balance. It's something that the Packers have to be cognizant of. I'm sure they are. I know they are. It was a masterful game plan that Matt LaFleur dialed up against Indianapolis. You look for something similar, assuming that it is Malik Willis under center again, or in the shotgun, against the Titans, against his former team. But yeah, I mean, you can't ride. You're not going to be able to ride any single player, whether it's Josh Jacobs or anybody else, that hard for, what do they have? 15 more games? You can't do that. So yeah, they're going to need Marshawn Lloyd the rest of the way, but we'll see. The injuries are starting to pile up just a little bit in week 3. So yeah, it'll, after what we saw against Indianapolis and LaFleur, we trust, or at least Packers fans should, because that was this is a master class.
It's a tough break for Lloyd because he dealt with a hip injury to start camp and the hamstring injury that knocked him out a while and sidelined him for week 1 because he was still getting over it. He had 6 carries and a catch, I think, in week 2 against the Colts and then injured his ankle. And it's 3 different injuries already. And he's 2 games into his NFL career. He told us in the locker room yesterday that when he says, again, or he's maybe feeling bad for himself, Josh Jacobs basically tells him, who cares? Kind of what was written on his gloves that we've talked about. He says, there's nothing you can do about it. So he kind of tells him to stop sulking. So just a small example of how Jacobs is, taking on a leadership role in that running back room. We still don't know about Jordan Morgan's injury. Matt LaFleur purposely didn't talk to Flea, Brian Engel, or Nate Weir, the 2 head trainers for the Packers, before he spoke to us yesterday. So he couldn't talk about injuries. That was his way of not talking about injuries. He's like, I don't know. I didn't talk to the trainers on purpose. So we don't know what Jordan Morgan's injury severity is, but it's never a great sign when you're ruled out that quick after an injury. And I asked Matt LaFleur yesterday if it was to the same shoulder that, he had hampered for a couple weeks during camp, and Matt LaFleur just said, I didn't talk to Flea. So we'll see about Jordan Morgan tomorrow. We know about Marshawn Lloyd. It might not be a rotation at right guard for the next couple games, at least for Sunday. If Jordan Morgan is nursing something significant, it might just be Sean Ryan. So we'll see where that goes. But this week, more than anything, is about the quarterback position, as it is most weeks. But I'll be interested to see if Jordan Love practices in any capacity this week. I would be surprised if he practiced tomorrow. Maybe they just get him out there for a little bit later in the week, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. This is not me wishing injury or bad health upon Jordan Love. I would never do that. But as a reporter invested in storylines, Malik Willis going into Tennessee against the Titans would be something good.
It would be great. And if there's someone who, because I would imagine that Malik Willis ran some scout team and probably has some decent looks about what, the Titans are going to schematically try to do against the Packers. So there's some advantages there, just having him on the roster, but having him on the field, I'm not going to say that it's an advantage to have Malik Willis over Jordan Love. That would be a ludicrous thing to say. But what we saw from Malik Willis was exactly what we were talking about in the days leading up to the game. Didn't have to be a hero, just had to be someone who could manage the game. And I've said it a million times that it sounds so terrible and so pejorative when you say he's just a game manager. It shouldn't be, because he managed that game plan to absolute perfection, 12 of 14, efficient, didn't make any mistakes, and has the ability when he gets flushed out of the pocket to run. So I think that Packers fans should have a lot more, I don't know, confidence is the right word, maybe comfortability if Jordan can't go.
Is that a word?
Comfortability? I don't know. I can look that up. Comfortability?
I'll look it up while you finish making your point after I just rudely interrupted you.
I think Packers fans should have more comfortability. I'm going to use it anyway. Comfortability.
It is not a word.
Okay. Well, I mean, in the purpose, for the purposes of my point, I'm going to make it a word. How about that?
Yeah, I don't think it is a word. Anyway, Malik Willis was asked post-game about the term game manager and what he thinks about it. And he said, I don't think of it. It's either win or lose, and y'all going to write about that either way. You can say what you want to. All you can do is control the flow of the game. The flow of the game said we're running the ball today. And if we're going to be successful running the ball, would you not run the ball just to prove somebody wrong? That's just it. It just is what it is. We're not here to throw those terms around. We're here to win games and do what we can to lean on each other, and that's all it is.
They said that Tom Brady was a game manager for a long time. Pretty damn good game manager.
Yeah, I don't think that's a term that carries a negative connotation necessarily. I think people look at it as a term like, oh, they can't win your team a game, but they won't lose your team a game. Like that word conservative we've been talking about. It comes with the connotation that a quarterback is conservative, won't make a backbreaking mistake, but won't make anything too explosive happen. Well, in Malik Willis' case, he had to manage the game, manage the clock, show command of the offense, and he did that. And by no means is it a bad thing, especially for a guy like him.
Yeah, and I had no problem. And I know when the team got booed off the field at the end of the first half, and I know that LaFleur was asked about it after the game. Fair question, but I thought his answer was brilliant. Thought his answer was brilliant. It's like,
yeah, that's fine.
It's stupid. It would have been insane for, and I sometimes I like to make golf analogies. It would be like a rookie golfer just on his first time that he ever gets to qualify for the Masters, and he's got a lead after a couple of rounds, and he's up there on 18, and maybe it's like a lead. Like I kind of liken it to Phil Mickelson at Winged Foot. What are you going to do when you've got a lead and you can either lay up and win the tournament or pull out driver on 72 and bounce it off the clubhouse roof? What are you going to do? You're going to play conservatively. You're going to lay up and you're going to get the win. And that's what the Packers did at the end of the first half. And for anybody, whether it's a fan or I don't know if there were any talking heads that were criticizing it, but for anybody to question it, it's like, do you understand the situation at all? So again, I just thought it was just, and for Malik Willis, if he does have to play again this time against the Titans, I think that fans should feel at least okay about it. Unlike going into the game against the Colts, where I think most fans just kind of chalked it up as an L.
And I asked that question to LaFleur after the game, not to say, why'd you do that? Like, what I've learned as a reporter, and this is not me saying, oh, woe is me, like, do as I do. No, but
it's a fair question. Absolutely,
no, I
is a fair
question.
But
what I'm saying is, with questions like that, sometimes coaches and players think you're trying to impart your own personal opinions on them.
Sure.
And I'm not saying LaFleur thought that, because I know him well enough. We've talked enough times that he knows I'm not like trying to take a shot at him. And even if I was, so be it. But I was more asking for his reasoning behind the situation. A coach or a player takes it differently when the reporter says, "Why'd you do that?"
Right.
The phrasing, and Bill Huber, I think, does a good job of this as well, as do others. What was the thinking behind that? Now, the questions mean the same thing, but I think if you want to get the better answer, a coach or a player will understand that you're just trying to get an explanation for their thinking. Whereas if you ask why, it seems like you're being confrontational, and they might think, oh, well, you're just a reporter trying to tell me how to do my job, but that's not really what it is. So there's an art to asking some of these questions to get the right answer. Again, I'm not saying, oh, do it like I do, but I thought LaFleur was good in his answer, even if he was a little defensive. Now, I don't know if he was defensive because I thought I was trying to impart my opinion on him that he should have pushed the ball downfield, or if he just wanted to speak to the fans who were booing him through that answer. Either way, fine answer.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't call it conservative. I would call it smart. Running a 2-minute drill with a quarterback who'd been here for 3 weeks would be reckless. Great quote.
Yeah, and accurate too. And listen, I know fans always want to go for it, but I got the sense listening to that answer that he was not annoyed with the question, but just kind of was like, why are you guys booing us?
Annoyed with the booze.
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean, I'd be annoyed with that. I'd be annoyed if I were a player. I would have been annoyed with that. It's like, we're up. What are you doing? Why are you booing us?
Yeah.
This guy's been here for 19 days and you want him to run a 2-minute drill? What's wrong with you?
After the break, we got Wayne Larrivee, the voice of the Packers. We won't boo him.
Never.
We love when he joins us every Tuesday. We'll break down everything from the game, look ahead to the Packers-Titans game this Sunday in Nashville. My first time in Nashville. Got to get some recommendations from people. So stick with us. We'll talk to Wayne right after the break, right here on The Game. welcoming everybody to the Wild Wild West, even though we are going east this week to Nashville, Tennessee.
When I think of Wayne, I think of Tupac, though, so I just fired it up.
Fair enough. Maybe we play that in week 5 when we're going to LA.
Oh, it will be.
Oh, it will be. We got Wayne Larrivee on the line. Wayne, it is my first time in Nashville this Sunday. How many times have you been to Nashville?
Oh, at least a dozen times, yeah.
Oh,
It's a great town. I think you'll like it.
fantastic. Matt LaFleur answered this yesterday, and I knew he was going to say this, and I kind of agree with him. I don't think the Packers should let their performance with Malik Willis at quarterback dictate how much urgency they have with Jordan Love. In other words, if they win with Malik Willis, I don't think they'll say, let's try and squeeze another week out of Jordan since we're fine with Malik. If Jordan's ready to play, he's going to play, right?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any question about that, Matt. And, that's the way it should be. Hey, listen, you're not saving these guys for anything. Every game counts in the NFL more so than in any other league. And, he's your best quarterback. If he's healthy and he's able to go, get him on the field. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I might have phrased that wrong. What I meant was basically if they're on the fence about him and they're leaning toward him playing and they say, he could use another week, I don't think they're going to let their performance with Malik Willis dictate that, and vice versa. If they lost with Malik Willis, I don't think they try and rush back Jordan Love any sooner. The news of the day, obviously, Wayne, Marshawn Lloyd goes to IR. He got 7 touches in the game on Sunday, which is a good amount to spare the Josh Jacobs of the world. Is it just all those go to Emmanuel Wilson? Is Emmanuel Wilson ready for, double-digit touches, you think? Or is Josh Jacobs going to be in for another 30-touch day?
I think Wilson's ready. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that to spell Jacobs in the game as need be. And they elevated Brooks from the practice squad. He's a guy who has some experience. So, no, I feel bad for Marshawn Lloyd because, frankly, he hasn't been able to get healthy. He's been dinged up the entire training camp and now in the regular season. And just when you start thinking he's going to, put it together and turn a corner, unfortunately, he suffered an injury again. And now he's out for a while. So injuries have slowed the draft class this year for the Packers. And hopefully they can, they're not major injuries that they can overcome and by the end of the season be playing in full-time roles.
Yep. Jordan Morgan dealing with one right now. We do not know the severity of that shoulder injury. And then Javon Bullard has stayed healthy, knock on wood. Edgerrin Cooper dealt with that hip injury during camp. He's healthy now. Lloyd dealt with an injury. Tyron Hopper was banged up during camp. He's healthy now. Evan Williams healthy. But you're right. The rookie class has been through the ringer. Let me ask you this. Looking ahead to the Titans game, I think it's just going to be 24-17 again. The Titans have lost 24-17 both of their games. When I made my prediction earlier today on my podcast with John Kuhn, out now, Breaking the Stick, wherever you listen to your podcast, I said Packers 24, and then in my head I remembered, they've lost each game 24-17, so I just said 17. But this Titans team is no easy pushover. They've got a good defense. Will Levis, loves just launching his body in midair and giving the ball to the other team. But in your early look at this Titans team, what do you see that could maybe present a challenge for the Packers or what the Packers might be able to take advantage of?
They have some people on defense is the first thing that comes to mind. I really like some of the things they were doing. I watched extensively the Bears game, and I know this past week they played Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and I'm going to dive into that tape tonight. But to me, they stands out defensively. I look at these guys. Jeffrey Simmons up front. Sebastian Joseph Day is a veteran defensive end. They've got a huge kid, the second-round draft choice out of Texas State, Tavondre Sweat, who won the Outland Trophy a year ago. He's 6'4", he's 362. I'll bet he's a biscuit shy of 370. You know what I mean? How do you move that guy out?
Biscuit
of it?
shy.
And then their
like
linebacking core. Some familiar names. Harold Landry, Ernest Jones played with the Rams. Kenneth Murray in that linebacking core. Arden Key, who has a background with the Raiders and I believe the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken. So they've got
Jaguars too, I think.
Front seven. So when you look at this, and secondary-wise, they've kind of pieced it together, but a lot of veteran pieces in here. Quandre Diggs, a safety. Amani Hooker. Then you've got L'Jarius Sneed over from the Chiefs. This Roger McCreary, their nickelback, he jumps off the tape at me. So, there's some people here. This is not going to be a pushover type thing. Offensively, they can do some things. They've got some nice skill position people. I think the quarterback's a little bit of a loose cannon, but, if you can pressure Will Levis, if you can pressure him, he will throw you the football at least twice.
Wayne, we got a chance to, and I say we, me and Doug, and I want Doug to chime in here. I had Dorsey Levens on the show for the full hour last night, and obviously I didn't.
Hey, you know what? I want to tell you, that was great. I listened to a lot of it.
Thank
I
you.
was out doing something, and I thought that was just really great. Dorsey is a very, I think, verbally gifted former player, and he could be an analyst if he wanted to be. I thought he was very good. You guys had a great show last night.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I had never met him before, so I did a little bit of research. He is from Syracuse, which obviously I'm not from there, but I lived there for 4 years. Doug was fantastic, and is it okay to say fanboying? You did use the word geeking out, but I think what I'll say is Doug added a very much needed historical perspective to the show, because I wasn't there for Dorsey's finest moments. Doug was, and what were your impressions of him, Doug, last night?
With Dorsey, I thought he was great. And to echo what Wayne said about, he's verbally gifted. He could be an analyst if that's the route that he wanted to go in. He went into acting. We didn't really touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that has been, part of his life for the last several years as well. But, he was there for the rebirth of the Packers franchise after so many down seasons in the 70s and 80s, coming off the incredible Lombardi era. So he was in the building. And, we talked about the NFC Championship game, the 1996 NFC Championship game quite a bit. It was such, that's where the frozen tundra, I think, really became frozen. But he had the incredible iconic catch. And, some of the great calls from that game from your predecessor, Wayne, and Jim Irwin were just so indelible. We've replayed it a couple of times during the summer on Packers Prime, and it's just one of those games that sticks out in memory of just one of the most incredible performances as a team, and Dorsey was just right in the middle of it with so many incredible plays.
Yeah, absolutely. Freeman had a great game. Brett Favre, of course, Reggie White, the whole bunch. And yeah, that was a historic reclamation project that Bob Harlan and then Ron Wolf, Mike Holmgren, they bring in Brett Favre, Reggie White, and all these guys come together. And it took time. It took years for them to get that thing turned. I want to say that was about their third or fourth year working at it before they were able to finally get over the hurdle and into the Super Bowl and win the game on Reggie's sacks in the second half and Desmond Howard's kickoff returns. But yeah, I mean, he was there for a historic moment, in a moment that Bob Harlan would tell you he never thought could happen again. And many people around the league thought that wasn't going to happen again either, that the Packers would become competitive and win a Super Bowl. And that group proved them wrong.
Wayne, how many years have you been with Larry on the broadcast?
This is our 26th.
Has he ever given the offensive lineman of the game to a tight end before?
Not that I recall until the other day, right? I mean, didn't he say Tucker Kraft?
He did, yes.
Yeah. I mean, and rightfully so. That guy was something else. That kid has really come along. And Matt, I knew he was a good player, a good rugged player, and I think he's going to be a very, very good player going forward. I didn't know he was this good, though. You know what I mean? I didn't project him to fill the role the way he has as quickly as he has.
Yeah, and it's not just the blocking stuff. I mean, Greg Olsen said on the Fox broadcast, he basically said, I'm biased as a tight end, but this Tucker Kraft kid, everything they're running runs through them. Runs through him, I should say, pun intended on my part. But he's more than just a blocker. His yak ability, his ability in space after the catch. He's got good hands. And one of the biggest takeaways I have from the first two games is how much more Tucker Kraft is playing than Luke Musgrave. Matt LaFleur,
me too.
I expect this. Matt LaFleur wouldn't, trash Luke Musgrave or say what he needs to do better. But Tucker Kraft played 64 snaps to Musgrave's 17 in week 1. Week 2, it was 56-31. LaFleur said they just think Tucker Kraft's a really good all-around tight end. And especially when you're in 11 personnel. And Matt LaFleur said, well, some of it has to do with us being in 11 or 12 personnel. Well, yeah, if you're in 11, you still have a tight end on the field, and it's Kraft over Musgrave. That means you like him better, especially if you're running. Kraft sets a really good edge in the run game.
And I'm thinking, Matt, just the two games they played, that though, especially last week, the game plan lent itself more toward Tucker Kraft, who's better at blocking maybe than Luke Musgrave is. But I still think there's a place in this offense for Musgrave, and I think that it would behoove them to find it because downfield he can create mismatches, and they need to get him downfield into some of those mismatches. He can open up the middle of that field and loosen up the coverage on the corners against those wide receivers. So I'm anxious to see what they do as the season progresses.
I totally agree. Looking on the other side of the ball, what do you think of week 2 of the Jeff Hafley defense? Is that more of what we should expect? Yes, the Colts were not good. John made the point on our show earlier that they looked disinterested, sluggish, but guess what? The Packers might have been the reason for that. The Packers took advantage of that. Matt LaFleur talked. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, the stats speak for themselves. 5 interceptions through 2 games after 7 all of last season. Matt LaFleur loves how they're playing with vision. That's why they're getting these takeaways, he says. They're playing with vision. What did you see week 2 of the Jeff Hafley defense, and is this what we should expect going forward?
Well, first off, what you and Kuhn talked about on your podcast, I had the same impression about the Colts as they came out for that game. But I do know this. They poured everything into that game against the Texans. That's a huge rivalry game for them now. It's a division game. They opened with the Texans. It was a hell of a battle, back and forth. It was one of those games that, maybe takes 2 weeks to get over, okay? So that was my impression of them. Then the offense kind of wore down a good Colts defense. That's a pretty good Colts defense. And then the offense never had a chance to get on track. And I think what we're seeing with the takeaways, I think the biggest difference has been Xavier McKinney in the middle of that defense. We haven't had a player of that caliber, Doug. Let me go back. Morgan Burnett, maybe. Micah Hyde, maybe.
Yeah, Micah Hyde, maybe.
Guy's better than those 3 players. I mean, he's the best we've had in the middle of that defense, and it's so important that your safety in the middle of that defense. We haven't had a player of this caliber since Nick Collins went down week 2 of 2011 at Carolina and ended his career with a neck injury. So I think a lot of it is that, and I think McKinney's doing a great job of getting people in the right spots too. I mean, he's playing with rookies next to him in the safety spot, and he's doing a great job of making sure people know where to be and that kind of thing. So there are a lot of intangibles that he brings to the party. Hafley's defense, I thought, was better this week. I know we haven't seen them rush the passer the way I know they can, Matt. And part of that has been the quarterback talent that they played. 2 very good mobile running quarterbacks, dual threat quarterbacks. And so they've had to be a little bit careful, a little bit more contained on the pass rush. I think that could change against Tennessee this week.
Yeah, I think so. Will Levis has been pressured a lot. I mentioned the Nashville radio personality on the show yesterday who put out the stat that Will Levis has been pressured on a higher percentage of his dropbacks than any quarterback in the NFL. That was at least before Falcons-Eagles game last night. I would assume that stat still stands true. So there are going to be opportunities, and the Packers haven't gotten home. They when I checked this stat yesterday before the Monday night game, the Packers ranked 30th in sack percentage, but they ranked 10th in pressure percentage. But you're right, Wayne. They have maintained more of a disciplined pass rush approach because getting all freaky up front would allow Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson to run with their legs. And those guys, obviously, as I've said, have scrambled a little bit late. Matt LaFleur's pointed that out too, how they haven't contained him for a full 60 minutes, but they've done a pretty solid job for the most part. Will Levis can scoot a little bit. He has like 4 rushes for 35 yards in both of the first 2 games for the Titans, but he's not like a Jalen Hurts or an Anthony Richardson, I don't believe. So I think the Packers are going to get into the backfield a little bit more. People are not happy on Twitter in my mentions with Rashawn Gary. He went through that 8-game stretch at the end of last season without a sack. Teams are just probably, I haven't looked into it too much, but what I'm assuming His teams are just devoting a lot of resources to him, especially with this pass rush strategy. He's obviously not getting home. He had a sack in the first game and a pass deflection. So, he already has a sack this year. But I think my prediction, we get a multi-sack game from Rashawn Gary on Sunday. That's my prediction, aside from 24-17.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great to see that kid get on track, too, in terms of getting home. But I don't know how they feel he's playing overall. I mean, they may be very happy with what he's done in the first 2 weeks of the season. I don't know if they are or not. But the other thing that about the defense is the running game. We were told, and you were there, Matt, and Doug, you were there at training camp. The theory was, okay, on this defensive front, we're going to get upfield into the offensive backfield. And we're going to pressure the quarterback. We're going to get to the quarterback. We're looking for sacks and tackles for losses. And on the way to the quarterback, if we have to, we'll stop the run. But the thing I always kept wondering about was, okay, so you're going to get upfield, but on occasion there are going to be holes. There are going to be gaps that are open, and a delayed running back or something like that could find some openings and make some hay. I'm really curious to see how they evolve against the run because. So far the numbers indicate that they have not done a great job of stopping the run yet.
No, Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor. I mean, that's not an easy way to start a season either.
Yeah, exactly.
Two of the better running backs in the league. The Titans have
those two guys are excellent.
Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears this weekend, I believe. So a little bit of a step down, but you can never take anybody lightly, especially with this Packers run defense. Wayne, we appreciate you as always. Enjoy the trip to Nashville. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Thanks. Have a great week.
Take it easy. I say that, and Tony Pollard's probably going to go off for 20 carries for 120 yards. I mean,
there's no guarantees.
He was their free agent acquisition. I am intrigued to see the matchup of two friends and college teammates, Elton Jenkins and Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons might be the Titans' best player, their defensive tackle. Elton Jenkins, obviously the Packers' multi-time Pro Bowl left guard. That could be a good matchup in the trenches. Speaking of Packers offensive linemen, Josh Myers throwing up was obviously a big story.
Yeah.
It's made national news.
Well, it's because the after the game quote was funny.
Oh, yeah, it was hilarious. I threw up mid-podcast with John today. Not all-out throw up. I had like an air bubble in my throat, and I was trying to force it out without making noise on my mic.
Oh, okay.
And as I did that, my mouth filled with, and this is probably TMI, but my mouth filled with the Qdoba I had just eaten. So instead of spitting it out, I just swallowed it again.
Okay.
That's disgusting. I'm sorry. Whoever's listening.
It's an all immersive experience when you listen to the Matt Schneidman show. So
that's one thing I have in common with Josh Myers. We threw up in the middle of work.
Yes. I mean, I think, when I was younger, I probably imbibed a little bit too much and rolled into work one day and was still feeling it from the night before. I remember one specific instance that, was not my finest moment, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's about all Josh Myers and I have in common.
Yeah. I mean, you're built similar. Oh, never mind.
You want to mess with me, Doug? I just came from the gym. Come on. Don't mess with me.
You're getting closer and closer to being the brick in the brick every day.
I don't think so. Let's get to another break. On the other side, we'll wrap up the Tuesday edition of the Matt Schneidman Show. Packers back in the facility tomorrow. Will Jordan Love practice? We don't know. My guess is no, but I've been wrong plenty of times before. I'll be wrong plenty of times again. Stick with us after the break right here on The Game. now through September 29th. When you buy 2 small logoed long sleeve t-shirts, you'll get a third for free. That's a $44.99 item free when you buy 2. Just enter the promo code FALLBOGO. That's FALLBOGO at checkout. Good toward both men's and women's tees. Go to ironjock.com for details. That's ironjoc.com.
Armin was rocking one of those today. It was a sharp look.
I was listening to their show on my drive back from Milwaukee this morning. My drive back from our visit to Potawatomi Hotel, Casino, Sportsbook. I'd just throw all 3 in there last night. And Armin did rave quite a bit about his Iron Jock. It's almost Iron Jock season. I'm looking forward to pulling my Iron Jock back out.
I've got mine on today. It's I'm going to test the unstinkability of it, I suppose. Perhaps later on today. The silver ion technology will be put to the test at some point this week. I've got a few of these, so I'm rocking the red today. If you can see it on the stream, the Brewers may clinch tonight. They may not. They need a win and a Cubs loss if they're going to clinch tonight. And when they do clinch, as we all know, that's when the champagne flies. And champagne in your clothes, I don't know if you've ever had champagne in your clothes. It stinks. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
So how do you prepare for a potential clinching?
Sure. I've got old shoes on. Like I've got an old pair of Nikes on right now that have been through a few of these, at American Family Field. So if they get ruined, no big deal. I've got a recorder that is encased in a custom-made plastic case, which I custom kind of made it myself out of something else, which works beautifully. It won't ruin it, won't get into any of the mechanisms of it, and will continue to protect it. I have a raincoat that I will put on that, you just hose it off and you're good to go after that. I've got a GoPro to get some video of the celebration that goes on inside the clubhouse. And, there's no worry about a GoPro getting ruined by any kind of liquid or anything like that. So those are some of the things that, you do when you are in a clinching scenario like tonight and however long it takes until the Brewers clinch.
So they have to win and the Cubs have to lose.
Yes. The magic number is 2.
Interesting.
So it could happen tonight. If the Brewers win and the Cubs win, then the magic number goes down to 1. And then if the Brewers win tomorrow, then it's all over. Or if the Cubs lose. Last year, the Brewers lost the game, but I forget, was it the Cubs or was it the Cardinals? Whoever was in second place, they lost. So the Brewers got in, had a big clubhouse celebration after a loss, which was a little different. But that can happen too.
It must be nice playing in an easy division.
Yeah. It's not a good division.
I mean,
it really isn't. It's a terrible
AL East
division.
isn't great this year either. They only have 2 teams above 500.
Yeah. Well, one of them's yours.
3-game lead.
Yeah, I know you were talking about, Yankees Brewers World Series. I think everybody here in Milwaukee would sign up for that. They just want the Brewers in the World Series, period.
Oh my God. I said, and I have said multiple times, I would pay $1,500, maybe $2,000 for a ticket to a Yankees Brewers World Series game at AmFam. I've been told that it wouldn't cost nearly that much. I've been told that the get-in price would be below $1,000. But if I want to get a respectable seat, I'd be willing to pay $1,500.
All right. You would not be alone. It will. I mean, I promise you, Milwaukee is. I mean, the Bucks winning the NBA championship a couple of years ago certainly helped. Mm-hmm. But Milwaukee is so starved for a baseball championship because it hasn't happened since 1957, and that was a different team. That was the Braves. Well, the only time that Milwaukee's ever won the World Series. So I don't know. There are probably a lot of folks who remember the 1957 Milwaukee Braves. We've read about the 1957 Milwaukee Braves. Great play. Warren Spahn, Hank Aaron, Eddie Matthews, just Hall of Fame players after Hall of Fame players on that team. But yeah, it's been a minute. Brewers got there once. They had 5 Hall of Famers in '82, but haven't been back since.
Yankees haven't been to the World Series since 2009.
Yeah.
We're starving. Anyway, back to what the show's about. If the Packers beat the Titans on Sunday, they'll move to 2-1. Entering the game against the Colts, we sat here and said, if they just win 1 game with Malik Willis, if he starts 3, that would be doable. I said if they started 1-3 and Jordan Love came back week 5, that would be fine. Now, if they go 2-0 with Malik Willis and Jordan Love comes back week 4, dream scenario. Dream scenario. Who knows how the rest of the season goes? But Malik Willis will have done his job. So he has a chance to not etch his name in Packers lore because it's only 2 games, although Matt Flynn kind of did with just 1 game, albeit a 6-touchdown game.
He got paid after that game.
He got paid after that game. But Malik Willis has a chance to forever endear himself, and by forever, I mean this season, to Packer fans. And guess what? If they go on to win the Super Bowl this year, he'll endear himself to Packer fans forever for helping them get 2 wins if he wins on Sunday. And it would be a phenomenal story, just him going in and beating the Titans. Now, that's not to say the Titans were wrong to trade him for a 7th-round pick. Process over results. The process was fine. He showed nothing in Tennessee. He was worth a 7th-round pick. That's fine. So maybe that's why Malik Willis says he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. I'm assuming he'll say more politically correct stuff tomorrow when he talks to us. There's no ill will, stuff like that. Because maybe he thinks they were right.
He was just going to get released anyway. I mean,
exactly. Maybe he was fine with that. But deep down, like Dorsey Levens was saying on our show last night, you got to have some sort of, I want to get my get back, redemption factor, revenge inside you this week, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember in the preseason when the Packers were talking about their backup quarterback situation, and there was somebody who called up and asked whether or not Sean Clifford had any trade value. No. Does Michael Pratt have any trade value? No. And Malik Willis had very little trade value, right? He was traded for a 7th-rounder. And the Packers felt, and I think that they were right, that he was more valuable being, traded for and giving up a 7th-rounder than either Sean Clifford or Michael Pratt. And neither one of them are on active rosters. Michael Pratt signed with the Buccaneers in their practice squad, and we know where Sean Clifford is. Although Sean Clifford was activated, and I suspect will probably be activated for this week as well. But that doesn't really count. He's still a full-time member of the practice squad for now.
So your guess is Jordan Love won't play this week?
That's my guess, yes.
My guess as well. Now, that would obviously mean Sean Clifford gets elevated, like you said. Even if Jordan Love is listed as questionable, we will know the day before whether he's playing or not, because this is something John Kuhn mentioned. You can tell by whether they elevate Sean Clifford or not, whether Jordan Love's going to play. If they don't elevate him, Jordan Love's going to play. If they do elevate him to be the backup, Malik Willis is going to start. So if Jordan Love's questionable, we won't need to wait till an hour and a half before the game to know. You'll know around 3 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, which is right about when I'm getting on my plane to go to Nashville. I think it'll be Malik Willis.
I do as well.
But the door is open. If the door was pretty open last week, the door must be agape this week for Jordan Love to start. Now, I think fans would be fine with Malik Willis starting another game, especially because of what he showed in the first game last weekend. But nobody's going to be upset if Jordan Love comes back. Nobody should be. No. I mean, you still, and everybody, we were talking earlier about, well, Malik Willis spent up until 3 weeks ago, or 3 weeks and some change ago, with the Tennessee Titans. So he should absolutely go out and play against the Titans. No. I mean, you can still pick his brain. You can still have meetings with him about, all right, so what do they do here? What do they do there? But I mean, there's also scouts that look at that stuff too. I mean, is it helpful to have somebody who is, in camp with them this year? Sure. Absolutely. No question. But that only goes so far. I mean, that's not what's going to put the Packers over the edge. It may give them a little bit of an edge. It may give them, some information, but you still have to go out and execute. And that's what sports is all about 9 times out of 10. It's all about going out and executing your game plan. And on the other side, the Titans know what Malik Willis can and can't do.
Sure.
So they might have an upper hand.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
The coin has 2 sides to it. So who has the better advantage? I would say the Titans probably, because Malik Willis isn't going to be spending too much time, I'm guessing, this week, standing in front of the Packers defensive meeting room and saying, all right, here's how to stop Will Levis.
Yeah, he's got other stuff on his mind.
Maybe he'll know how to attack that defense a little better. But in terms of helping the Packers defense, he has bigger things to handle this week. That's getting ready to start another game. Now, the Titans, on defense specifically, they might know some things about Malik Willis based on seeing him this summer. But as always, it's a chess match. Matt LaFleur is going to have a counter. We'll see if the counter is as good as it was last week against the Colts. We'll be back tomorrow Wednesday, September 18th, fresh locker room sound, another day of availability. Will Jordan Love talk to reporters? We shall see. Practice tomorrow. We'll see what storylines come out of Lambeau Field tomorrow afternoon. Packers-Titans coming up on Sunday. We appreciate everyone listening. As always, for Doug, I'm Matt. We'll catch you next time.